gearnetwork.com.
The following is a presentation of the Gear Radio Network.
1, 2, 3, 4.
I believe it's a big challenge for our building to keep things in perspective and to, if we're going to get addicted to anything, let's get addicted to the process.
And with that, we welcome you to Trust the Podcast, powered by Better Alive Than Dead and the Gear Radio Network. This here is episode 147.
Episode 147, my babies. Hey, Buffalo, you did good, you did. I told you I didn't want to put I didn't want to put the pressure on them, but I'm telling you, Ryan, that Trust the Podcast karma, my man, it is officially what I like to call a thing.
Trend, baby. It's the Buffalo Bills versus the Pittsburgh Steelers. You can hear us on betterlivethandead.com, gearnetwork.com, and wherever else you listen to podcasts. Make sure to hit that subscribe button as well to stay up to date on the latest podcast. I am Ryan Wolfe in Rochester, New York. John Cimino joining me on location tonight.
On location, yeah, from Ravens country out here in Baltimore, Maryland.
It's funny because, you know, we kind of forget we do this on a weekly basis. And John, real quick, had a funny text he shot out this afternoon because he made a point. He said, I'm committed to the bit. I'm bringing it. I'm not missing a Trust the Podcast in the playoffs, especially now. And John, please let the people know very quickly what happened this afternoon or this morning.
Ryan, let me tell you something. I don't. You're gonna have to kind of fill me in a little bit on it.
What happened at the airport with the items that you brought with you?
Oh my God! All right, yes, thank you. Because no. There is like a whole episode, like not related to this or me or anything, but just like shit was delayed, and of all the lines to get a rental car and like check out of, I picked the friggin' slowest Baltimorean, if you will, to check me out. It was friggin' terrible. But yes, so to all of you aspiring podcasters out there, you may want to, figure out a better way to bring your travel podcast studio equipment. So my travel podcast studio equipment consists of my iPad, my Bluetooth keyboard, my Apple Pencil, my Beats headphones, and a travel podcast microphone, which is what I am talking on right now, hopefully sounding as clear as day. That travel microphone, of all things that I packed, apparently caused such an uproar that they had to pull me aside. I had to be completely searched again. I'm not wearing shit but my clothes. I don't have my belt on or any of that. Belt off, shoes off, wallets, pockets are empty, the whole nine. They got to search me now. And I'm like, well, what is this for? And they're like, what is this big item in your bag? And here I am thinking maybe it might be, like my vape pen, I'm like, I said, is it my e-cigarette thing? Is that what no, what's this thing here? And honest to God, dude, from the picture that they showed from like looking inside, like the scanner or whatever, it looked like a giant dildo. So I didn't really have the opportunity to like tell them it was a microphone because I was looking at this thing that looked like a dildo. And because I'm 13 at heart, I start laughing. And I'm like, I don't know what are you talking about? Like I pack I don't know what the hell's in there. Go ahead, just look. So they look and they bring out the microphone. They're like, oh, it's a microphone. And I'm like, oh yeah, look at that. I did bring that with me, didn't I? And they were like, all of a sudden the dude freaking puts gloves on, and I'm like, okay, this is fun. This is interesting. I was like, if you want to see what's under the the wind pad there, just go ahead and remove it. The foam comes off. They're like, oh, I'm just wondering, did you spit on this thing? And I'm like, only thing I'm spitting, pal, is these bars. And they start laughing and look at me, but I kept like a serious like face on. And
they're
then
like, oh, you meant you were serious.
Right. They thought I was joking. I was joking, incidentally. I can't rap to save my ass. But I was joking, but I didn't want to project it to them. So I let them think that they ruined my hopes and dreams. And not too much longer after that, they let me go, I think, out of sympathy. So, yes, but the fine folks at the Rochester, the Frederick Douglass Rochester International Airport, if you happen to be trusted podcast listeners, you've been had.
I love it.
At IMJC Money.
That's fair. Well, hey, we're going to make this really quick for you so you can get back to business over on your end. I know it's a very busy evening for you, but
yes, indeed.
Quick rundown. A super wild card weekend for the Buffalo Bills. Prior to discussing the victory, a little housekeeping here. Buffalo punter Sam Martin was named the AFC Special Teams Player of the Month earlier last week. It's his first career Player of the Month nod for Martin and the first Buffalo punter to earn the honor since Brian Moorman in November of 2006. It also marks the first time in franchise history that both Buffalo specialists, Bass and Martin, have earned the honor in the same season. Also, Buffalo cornerback Taron Johnson was named to AP's second team All-Pro as a slot cornerback for the first time in his career. Marks the fifth year a Buffalo defender has been named to an All-Pro team. Trey White was first team in 2019, second team in 2020. Jordan Poyer, first team in 2021. Micah Hyde, second team also in 2021. And Matt Milano was a first team All-Pro. I forgot the word I was trying to say there. First team All-Pro in 2022. Now, John, on to super wild card weekend. I'm sorry.
I know it's not just wild card weekend anymore. It's super wild card weekend.
I was very disappointed. Yeah. Very disappointed this week when it's just the divisional round. You know, it's very deflating. But hey, Buffalo, circling back, the Buffalo Bills defeated the Pittsburgh Steelers 31-17 on again.
And incidentally, the Pittsburgh Steelers had no business being in that game. They had no business being in that game.
We'll talk about that coming up.
Period, point blank. I'm a fan of Coach Tomlin. I have respect for the Steelers organization. They had absolutely no business being in that position and in that game right now.
Buffalo moves to 12-6 on the season and extends their winning streak to 6 games, both stats obviously including the playoffs. Buffalo moves to 15-4 all-time in home playoff games, and it's the second time in franchise history that Buffalo has won a playoff game in 4 consecutive seasons, the only other time being 1990 through 1993. Also, Sean McDermott joins Marv Levy as the only Buffalo head coaches with 5+ playoff wins. Marv Levy had 11. Also, if you live under a rock, you'll know that a mega snowstorm pushed Sunday's game back to Monday afternoon. Now, before anybody spouts off, which a lot of people already have, John,
the Dolphins fans especially, you guys are fucking assholes for the way you guys were acting. I'm sorry. I'm not putting a homer hat on, and I'm not trying to, bring down this podcast with smut. But seriously, honest to God, I am so glad the Dolphins fans had the weekend that they had, and that they're no longer in there. And no longer in the playoffs, because after the way you guys acted when it came to something like this out in Western New York, and just the way you acted and the way you responded and the way you're you should have played the games in the elements. Duh! Shut up, Dolphins fans. I'm so glad that you guys did not win the AFC East at all. I'm glad you guys were exposed for the frauds that you are, and the fact that you guys are going to act like that during an actual natural disaster. Like, it's not like the NFL scriptwriter. The Buffalo Bills were, God damn it, Ryan, I'm going off on a tangent now. But I was so pissed seeing all of that. I was so pissed seeing all of that.
Let's wrap it up.
Y'all should be embarrassed.
Let's wrap it up real quick. They played the game in Kansas City because it was just cold. Very cold, but it was cold. In Buffalo, it wasn't even the fact that people couldn't get to the stadium. Players couldn't get to the stadium. But the most important thing, when there is a storm such as the one we saw a few days ago, first responders can't get out. Plows can't get out. What happens if there's an accident? Fire trucks and ambulances can't get there. And not to mention, what if they play the game? They can't get to the level 1 trauma center like the NFL needs them to in the allotted amount of time because of the conditions, which we saw on Sunday were god awful. So the NFL,
they were bad. It was bad, and it's not letting up anytime soon. I think they're getting another 1 to 3 as of press recording tonight on Tuesday night.
24 to 30 more inches of snow by Thursday, I believe.
That's unbelievable. That's unbelievable to me. And then you've got these freaking South Florida Dolphins fans who, when it gets to be 60 degrees, they're freaking their nuts are shriveled up, and they're like, "Oh, it's so cold. I got to turn on the heat in my car." Like, shut the fuck up, dude. Seriously. I'm so glad you guys got another season. You seriously, you are the Dallas Cowboys of the AFC. Is what Dolphins fans are. They're Cowboys fans of the AFC. They don't
also
have anything to hang on anymore. Like, even Cowboys fans can say, we at least won something more recent than y'all did.
The Steelers fans some Steelers fans also did embarrass themselves as well, which they fall into that category. But John, our three big things brought to you by puckluck.com, your one-stop resource for all your National Hockey League sports betting action. Puckluck provides win percentages and score projections for each and every National Hockey League game to tilt the ice in your favor. Not sure what to bet or just in a rut? Not to worry. Puckluck also provides expert picks to get the puck bouncing your way. Please note, puckluck.com, no way affiliated with the National Hockey League, its teams, or the NHLPA. Puckluck.com provides data related to gambling and cannot guarantee the success of any suggested or related wagers. As always, please gamble responsibly. Wrapping up the offense, John, quarterback Josh Allen, or as we like to call him, as we like to call him, that is a live dog right there.
Yes.
As we like to call him in the Western New York area this time of year, playoff Josh showed up on Monday afternoon, 21 for 30 passing, 203 passing yards, and 3 passing touchdowns with 8 carries for 74 yards and 1 touchdown. Josh Allen became the first player in NFL history to throw 3 or more touchdown passes while also rushing for 70-plus yards and a touchdown in a postseason game. It was the 6th multi-touchdown postseason game of Allen's career. According to Next Gen Stats, on Josh Allen's 52-yard touchdown run, Allen's top speed, John, was 19.33 miles per hour.
Oh, dude, I believe it. When he broke that tackle and just excelled, like it was like he flipped on. It was like he pulled the R trigger button on the Xbox controller or the RS or whatever it is for PlayStation users, because he just went a different level, and you saw his speed just. He was gone. He was off to the races.
A lot of people were saying too that he was faking a slide. I like the answer that he's just white, and white people usually run incredibly awkward, which really is what was happening. It's just kind of hey, should I go down? I'm just going to keep going. He bounced the guy off of him. There's a great clip, John, I'll have to share with you and anybody who's interested on the Pat McAfee show. Mitch Morse talked on it's Tuesday here. He talked on Tuesday to the Pat McAfee show, talking about how they've always been trying to get Josh to slide, and then he breaks one of those off, and you're like, how do we tell him to slide if that's what he's going to do? So
right.
Rushing yards over expected, plus 42. So it was only a 10-yard expected rush when going back and doing the fancy stats. The play had a touchdown probability of 0.2%. Allen reached his fastest speed as a ball carrier of the season, gained the most rushing yards over expected by a quarterback, and gained the most yards on a quarterback scramble of the 2023 season. Also, his 52-yard touchdown run was the longest run in a Buffalo postseason history and the second longest run by a quarterback in the Super Bowl era. Colin Kaepernick had a 56-yard rush in the 2022 divisional playoffs. It's also the longest run of Allen's career, regular and postseason combined. Josh Allen faced the blitz on 44.1% of his dropbacks on Monday. He averaged 2.51 seconds to throw, the 4th quickest in a game in his career. He was also efficient on those quick passes, completing 14 of 17 for 85 yards and 2 touchdowns, a 47.1% success rate. According to @SeanPBB, the Buffalo Bills are now 32-6 when Allen has touchdowns from both the ground and air, including regular season and playoffs. He had 11 such games in the regular season, and shockingly, the Bills were 6-5 in those games. Allen became the 4th quarterback in NFL history with 20-plus passing touchdowns in their first 9 career playoff games, joining Dan Marino, who had 21, and Patrick Mahomes and Drew Brees, who each had 22. Josh Allen, again, also becomes only the 22nd quarterback in the history of the National Football League. Imagine how many quarterbacks there have been with multiple playoff games with a rushing and passing touchdown combination. he becomes the fifth Bill. I'm not done yet, John. I'm sorry. He becomes the fifth Bill with 3+ playoff rushing touchdowns in his career, tied with Joe Cribbs and Devin Singletary for third on Buffalo's all-time playoff list with those 3. Kenneth Davis is second with 7, and Thurman Thomas, understandably, first with 16. Allen's 24 total touchdowns in the playoffs, 20 passing and 4 rushing, marked the most in franchise history, surpassing Newman Kelly's previous mark of 21 touchdowns, all of which were passing. Allen has 3,028 combined passing and rushing yards, 2,537 passing, 491 rushing in his first 9 playoff games, a new NFL record for NFL quarterbacks, surpassing Drew Brees, who had 3,009 combined yards, 2,980 passing, and 29 rushing. And John, I leave you with this: the most apt Josh Allen comparison I have seen since Josh Allen became the quarterback of the Buffalo Bills, from @RobertMays on Twitter. Quote, Josh Allen is like a human monster truck with the soul of a Labradoodle that's fueled by Four Loko, a singular, unhinged experience.
I don't disagree with any of that at all. I mean, the dude gives. I don't know if it's him or if it's the team or it's a combination of both. But at times you could be like, Josh, what the hell are you doing? And then other times like, Josh, what the hell? Oh my God, did he really just do that? Like,
it's kind of funny,
dude.
John.
He is him.
It is. He is him. I said that so many times throughout the game, and I never felt whiter in my life. Josh Allen, what he does in the playoffs is what he tries to do in the regular season, except the Buffalo Bills really don't want him doing that in week 6 of the regular season.
Right.
They want him doing that in the wild card divisional conference championship, Super Bowl, etc. So again, seeing him ball out on Sunday, it's good to see playoff Josh is back and rolling. But again, I am just absolutely. I mean, granted, we'll talk about the defense coming up. The Bills jumped out to a 21-0 lead. Tight end Dawson Knox had 1 reception on 2 targets for 9 yards, but he made it count. He had a touchdown. It's his 6th career postseason receiving touchdown, joining Andre Reed with 9, James Lofton with 6, and Gabe Davis with 6, as Buffalo's only players in franchise history with 6 or more receiving touchdowns in postseason play. Weird stat of the day, though, John. Dawson Knox has recorded the first touchdown for the Bills in each of their last 4 wildcard games. So next year, when the Buffalo Bills ultimately play in the wildcard game, granted they're not the 1 seed, I would put everything you have on. I mean, I'm no expert. I'm no gambling expert, but this is more than a trend.
Right.
All in on Dawson Knox getting that first touchdown.
Hey, you know what? Not a bad deal, and especially when you have Dalton Kincaid on the other side that can complement him and be another weapon too. I know he scored another touchdown too, and I know that's a little bit later on down the sheet there too. But the way that they've done this, and they've done this masterfully since they went from Ken Dorsey to Joe Brady, they've really done a really magnificent job of incorporating them tight ends and the running back, and that's been honestly that's been the major turnaround that has allowed Josh Allen to, quite frankly, be playoff Josh. When he needs to be playoff Josh in the playoffs. He didn't need to be playoff Josh en route to getting here, because that new offense with Brady at the helm helped craft the offense that you're seeing right now, which is more inclusive of the dink and dunks and the tight and the dual tight end formations and things like that. So I would say, if we want to go ahead and look at the Magic 8 Ball a year ahead now, and the Bills are in the playoffs, Dawson Knox definitely a solid pick for TD number 1 of however many, you don't know, but you're probably going to get that in there. You're probably going to get that with him.
Someone else who has stepped up their game and continues to step up is wide receiver Khalil Shakir, especially in the absence of wide receiver Gabe Davis. 3 receptions on 3 targets for 31 yards and a touchdown. He showed us that he is actually Spider-Man himself. According to Next Gen Stats, Shakir had a 0.7% chance of scoring a touchdown when he caught the ball on his 17-yard touchdown reception. He had plus 14 yards after the catch over expected. Shakir has now caught 16 consecutive targets dating back to week 16. So again, he has balled up and balled out when it comes to stepping up in the Bills offense. Honestly, with run blocking, we've seen Stephon Diggs step up there as well. This whole offense is buying into everything that Joe Brady is putting on that on the field, or having them put on the field, I should say. But putting a bow on the O, Buffalo's 8th turnover-free game in postseason all time, and their 5th in their last 8 postseason games. Tight end Dalton Kincaid, you mentioned him, John. He became the 6th Bill with a touchdown catch in their playoff debut, and the first since Tommy Doyle did it against the New England Patriots on January 15th, 2022. Also, Buffalo became the first team to have 2 different tight ends catch a touchdown in the first quarter of a playoff game. Speaking of doing something impressive here, Buffalo's 34 total carries for a total of 179 yards, 5.3 yards per carry and a touchdown. James Cook quietly ran 18 times for 79 yards, 4.4 yards per carry. He looked good on Sunday as well. It's the 7th most rushing yards in a playoff game in franchise history, the most since Buffalo recorded 341 rushing yards versus Miami on December 30th, 1995. Moving over to breaking down the defense here, John. Ed Oliver continues to show why maybe he should have been an all-pro. He had one solo tackle, 1 tackle for a loss, 1 pass deflection, and 3 quarterback hits. But get this. According to Next Gen Stats, Oliver generated a season-high 10 pressures on 28 pass rushes, the most pressures by a defensive tackle in a playoff game over the last 6 seasons. Oliver had 6 of his 10 pressures come against center Mason Cole across 13 matchups. He had 4 quick pressures there as well. 2.33 seconds to a quarterback pressure and an impressive 46.2% pressure rate. Ed Oliver, as you mentioned, Josh Allen is. Ed Oliver is him. He's a dog.
He's also him. I will tell you this, you got
that dog voice down pretty well.
Oh, I have to try my best there, and thank you for that. But yeah, going back to Ed Oliver and his play here, it's to take a page out of the book of John Madden here. When the defense, puts the pressure on the quarterback can't make a play. If the quarterback can't advance the ball and make the play, the team doesn't score. If the team doesn't score, you don't win the game. Yeah.
Thanks, John.
Sports is in the game.
Thanks, John. I'm Pat Summerall.
Thanks, John. As he's smoking on his Winstons.
Buffalo had some injuries in this game, John, which is the story of the season. They've been very resilient to injuries, but at one point, the Bills' defense was down to their 4th and 5th cornerbacks and their 4th and 5th linebackers, which I think really stunted the development of the game. Buffalo at one point was up 21-0, looking like it was a surefire victory. And things definitely slowed down because the Pittsburgh Steelers defense was able to, or Pittsburgh Steelers offense was able to keep the Buffalo Bills offense off the field by just chewing away, dinking and dunking, chipping away, getting downfield, and then finally scoring and letting the Buffalo Bills offense get back on the field. And the Buffalo Bills offense struggled a little, but then finally was able to kick back into gear. But one of the big guys that we've talked about in the past before, I know that linebacker A.J. Klein returned to the Buffalo Bills, signed to the practice squad, ended up being elevated for the game. Post-game, he said he bought an RV and was planning on a road trip to Key West for the weekend before he got the call to come back to the Bills when linebacker Tyrell Dodson went down. Klein said, quote, "I'm just glad that they called me back. I just want to help this team win." What a guy.
Oh, that's awesome. That's awesome because I'll tell you what, a road trip to Key West in an RV doesn't sound like that. Doesn't sound like that bad of an idea at all. So, obviously to get out of that, if that's the option, I mean, that's a pretty good option to have to get out of that. I don't know that I'd give up the road trip to Key West for anything else other than playing on a team like this that has a good chance to win,
Going from the warmest of warm, I mean, it's pretty cold everywhere right now, but going from Key West to freezing cold ass, you can definitely tell how much the Buffalo Bills mean to A.J. Klein. He's playing in his 15th career playoff game, 8th as a Bill. John, he led all Buffalo defenders with 11 total tackles. Marks his first career playoff performance with 10-plus tackles. Speaking of firsts, cornerback Kyer Elam recorded his first career postseason interception. He was getting picked on there for a bit after Christian Benford went down. Rasul Douglas didn't play. We'll talk about that in just a moment. Taron Johnson went down as well, as we will talk about here in a moment. But Kyer Elam was getting picked on, and then he turned the tables and jumped a route and recorded an interception. And all of a sudden, it felt like the tide was kind of turning there for Kyer Elam. Now, I can't imagine he's going to be playing a lot more important minutes coming up in the playoffs. I mean, injuries definitely have their say, but hey, you know what? Sometimes you just got to step up, and he hasn't played. Yeah, he hasn't played since week 6.
You know what? It doesn't matter though. Got to be ready for when.
That's what I'm saying though. Like even though
we've talked about it ad nauseum over the course of time how well Sean McDermott and this coaching staff has done, really stockpiling talent and backfilling talent and making sure that they had next person up. We're seeing it in action more this year than I think in previous years when we were like, well, they didn't really need to do this, but they make this move at right guard, but they made this move. And, I guess it's better to be ready, in case of a situation happen. Well, all of those situations that we were labeling as hypotheticals 2 seasons ago happened this year. It's a prime example of what happens when you're ready, whether it's week 6 or whether it's week 18 or 19 now, whatever it ends up being.
Yeah, and honestly, it's a lot more of going out and getting actual feasible depth. Yep. Where before it just felt like we're just going to go out and sign a couple big guys and we'll be fine.
Right.
Now it's when you go out and you trade for Rasul Douglas. So when he goes down, you still got Christian Benford and Taron Johnson. Right. Now you can't predict that those guys will all go down in the same game like we saw on Sunday.
Sure. Right. Yep.
But Buffalo went into the game without safety Taylor Rapp, without linebacker Tyrell Dotson, without cornerback Rasul Douglas due to injuries. Post-game, McDermott did say that it was, quote, probably closer for Dotson to play against Pittsburgh than it was for Douglas, but, quote, he doesn't know for sure. Douglas did tell Tim Graham after the game he felt he was ready to play, but the team held him out. Douglas told Graham he will play next weekend against Kansas City, which is a big deal. If Buffalo can get Rapp, Dodson, Douglas, maybe Davis back, that would be incredibly large for the Buffalo Bills because Gabe Davis does like to play against the Kansas City Chiefs. And Tony Romo gets a big old hard on for Gabe Davis, man. Every time
he really does.
Gabe Davis could catch a 1-yard pass, and Tony Romo would go, it's big game, Gabe.
Gabe Davis is to Tony Romo what Patrick Mahomes is to Chris Collinsworth.
I just love it though. Every time if Gabe Davis plays on Sunday. He catches any sort of pass, you're going to hear Tony Romo go, it's big game, Gabe. Doesn't matter what he does. Every time. Indeed. Love it.
Yeah, you see it there, Jim. It's what he does. He's just there when he needs him to be.
He just catches the ball and gets touchdowns.
As a quarterback, you love to have people like that. I would love to have a Gabe Davis on my team in those Cowboys games. Maybe we wouldn't get bounced out of the divisional round. I'm sorry.
Maybe you could catch the ball and not fumble it like Des Bryant allegedly did. What he did, it was really not a fumble. But anyways, what's really kind of funny too is that it's in a weird way. It really might work out for the Buffalo Bills because Gabe Davis, free agent after the season, Khalil Shakir has stepped up.
Right, yeah, that's a real good problem to have.
Remember when Gabe Davis broke out in the playoffs? He had that huge game against the Chiefs, and the next year broke out and was continued to develop. It feels like we're getting that same situation with Khalil Shakir. Where granted, the statistics aren't sexy, but when they get the ball in his hands, you're like, oh, this guy could do something. And with the emergence of Dalton Kincaid in his first season, having a healthy Dawson Knox for an entire year, having Stephon Diggs return, having Khalil Shakir, maybe you don't have to go out and pay Gabe Davis. That's a conversation for a Trust the Podcast later in the season, later in the winter season, I should say, not the football season. But again, these are the things we pay attention to as the year goes on.
Yes.
Linebacker Terrell Bernard left the game with an ankle injury, was ruled out immediately following an x-ray. Thank goodness the Buffalo Bills finally get a lucky break. X-rays were negative. He underwent an MRI on Tuesday. We should know more later this week. Per Ian Rappaport, he was believed to have suffered an ankle sprain, was spotted on crutches and in a walking boot post-game. I know Twitter doctors are Twitter doctors, but the people that I pay attention to are legitimate doctors, not just random people who say, it doesn't look good. And I believe one of the people said that it looks like a lateral ankle sprain, and at worst he'll probably miss maybe 2 weeks. So if the Bills beat the Chiefs, you could have Terrell Bernard back, and that's a very big name to have. Absolutely. Speaking of big names, cornerback Christian Benford left the game with a knee injury. Originally ruled questionable, did not return. He spotted on the sidelines on the bike warming up, but there is did not return. No current update. Taron Johnson left the game with a head injury, did not return as of Tuesday. Sean McDermott confirmed he is in concussion protocol. Linebacker Balin Spector left the game with a back injury, originally ruled questionable, did not return as far as I know. Replay showed that Spector was kneed in the back during the game again. Oof. No current update. When it's 0 degrees out, when I think it was at the worst, like 11 felt like 1 or -1. That stuff doesn't feel good. Even if it's like muscle spasms, doesn't feel good. Not at all.
Yeah, and it's hard, and for something like that to kind of stretch and kind of come down and in comfort level, your body's kind of got to be warm, and when you're in that temperature, it's very hard to do.
Your lips to God's ears on this one. Sam Martin, in what appeared to be the most painful injury of the day, appeared to pull his left hamstring. What had happened was there was a blocked field goal attempt, very nice blocked field goal attempt by the Steelers. Sam Martin put on the afterburners, and punters are people too, John. Some punters are all they can do is punt, and I feel bad for the guy because he's not it probably was just the perfect storm of it being negative whatever outside, feeling like negative whatever. He ran. You can definitely tell at the end he pulled up and grabbed his left hamstring. Did not look very good. He did return to punt and hold kicks, but post game Sean McDermott did confirm there will, quote, be consideration regarding bringing in a new punter this week. I'm not going to put any bad juju out there. There are some specific names available, and that's where we're leaving it. Cause I don't want to give it any time of day. Buffalo also on Tuesday released running back Leonard Fournette from the practice squad. He is no longer a member of the Buffalo Bills. This move is not conduct related. Nothing wrong there. Sean McDermott said it's needed to open up spots for potential practice squad additions with injuries from Sunday's game. My best guess is that the Bills will likely pick up a punter or maybe a linebacker or cornerback, something like that.
Something
I know Josh
desperately needed.
I was going to say, I know Josh Norman. I forgot about him. He's still in the practice squad too. I mean, this team still has people, and there's nothing to say they don't bring Leonard Fournette back. Right now, they need the spot because they suffered so many freaking injuries on Sunday. And again, a lot of it I think was related to just being cold and the turf being hard and not a lot of give everywhere.
Or as Leonard Fournette would say, colder than a penguin's ass.
Yeah, that's fair. That's a very fair.
Because I'll tell you what, it's colder than a penguin's ass out here in Baltimore as well.
It's colder than a penguin's ass pretty much everywhere in the contiguous 48 states, United States, if that's how you say it. But hey,
yes, indeed.
We're going to take a quick commercial break. We'll be back with more Trust the Podcast here on the Gear Radio Network right after this. And we're back here on Trust the Podcast. John, lunging towards the Lombardi. This title has stuck.
I like it. Lunging towards the Lombardi. We're lunging. I like it.
Because we're not supposed to say the SB name, because it's technically they sue people or whatever, and I don't have that much money.
I don't have that much money either, but I still say it. I don't care.
Lunging towards the Lombardi, brought to you by Go Frost Yourself.
Located in Rochester, New York, Go Frost Yourself does what other bakeries do not. They bake from scratch, creating recipes themselves and using the best fresh ingredients that they can find to create delicious flavors for customers daily. Molly and Jen. Hi, Molly. Hi, Jen. They've worked tirelessly to create what Go Frost Yourself has become today, and their passion can be tasted in the items that they bake. When you find yourself looking for an item for a special occasion, or maybe you just want to try their incredible cinnamon rolls, if you're local, which right now I am not, but I swear to God, if I see my boy Lamar Jackson walking these streets in Baltimore, I'm going to tell him that he can go visit Go Frost Yourself storefront at 2544 Ridgeway Avenue in Rochester, New York, or at gofrostyourself.com.
In the NFC, America was very pleased with this one. Green Bay upset Dallas 48-32. Green Bay rewarded with an all-expenses paid trip to face the NFC's best San Francisco 49ers next Saturday at 8 p.m. Eastern on Fox.
Did you see there was this video that was going around. Maybe actually you sent it, or I don't remember. But it was of the local news for Dallas and Arlington, right outside of AT&T Stadium, where they were interviewing Cowboys fans as they were leaving from the game. There's this one dude that was like, "We got to fire the coach, get rid of the quarterback, but at least I have the Rangers. Go Rangers!" And he's got his Texas Rangers hat in his hand.
No, I did see the video though of the of the Lions fan doing the gritty in a David Montgomery jersey past a Cowboys fan who's on all fours throwing up in the concourse at AT&T Stadium.
That's perfect.
Like playoff content on social media is perfect. There are videos I've saved of. I haven't watched it yet. It's saved. I'll have to send it over to you, John, and to Lewis as well if it's as good as I think it's going to be. An Eagles fan telling a radio host to go F himself live on the air. So again, it's like, I love it when teams like that lose because you know the content. There's another video of a fan in Eagles gear throwing a bucket of popcorn on Nick Sirianni as he walked to the locker room.
Jesus Christ.
I love this stuff.
But the Philadelphia Eagles fans, they famously threw snowballs at Santa. What do you expect? If I would be disappointed if none of those stories came out at all.
Oh yeah, I didn't put their game in here. They lost as well. They lost. They being the Philadelphia Eagles lost to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Sure. Baker Mayfield balled out. Continue. He's the quarterback long term.
Sure is.
Feel bad for Jason Kelsey because again he came back to finish the story, as Cody Rhodes would put it, and Baker Mayfield showed up a la The Rock and said, "Nah, fam, I'm finishing my story first."
Well, Drew McIntyre actually said that too. Everybody wants to finish their story now, so it seems
I would love it if someone
building intrigue.
I wish someone would show up and be like, finish, like R-Truth would show up and be like, finish a story. I can't read. That would be hilarious.
Oh no, R-Truth is with the Judgment Day now, even though he's not really with the Judgment Day.
Yeah, that's
I don't know if you're following that story, but that's hilarious.
I catch it from time to time. Pretty much, you showing up. How does he keep showing up where we are and all? It's great. Anything R-Truth does is fantastic. But
absolutely,
back to football. The Detroit Lions edged the Los Angeles Rams 24-23, recording their first playoff win in 32 years. Detroit will host Tampa Bay on Sunday at 3 p.m. Eastern time on NBC. I don't know if you saw that clip, John, where Matt Stafford was knocked out. Clearly, you can see his eyes roll in the back of his head, and he got up and pretended his arm hurt so he didn't get pulled out for concussion protocol.
No, I did not see that, but I did see the entire crowd sing "Lose Yourself" from Eminem.
I love that.
That was pretty cool.
I love that the crowd. I mean, I would like it. It'd be cool if they cheered Matt Stafford because it's a big deal. Because he played there forever. I love the fact that he came out and they just gave him the business and were just booing him to death because you know what? It's a playoff game. You need any advantage if you can get. And if he was coming out expecting to be lauded for his career in Detroit, nah, man, we'll talk about that in a couple of years. When
week 5 of the season, week 8 of the season, week 10 of the season, that's one thing. Week 1 of the playoffs. Sorry, dog. It's a different. It's a no for me. It's a no for me. Everybody's 0-0. Doesn't matter.
I was loving that. That was great. AFC. Houston clobbered Cleveland 45-14. Houston gets to take their talents to Baltimore next Saturday to try and power their way into the franchise's first AFC Championship game. That's 4:30 Eastern on ABC and ESPN.
It almost seems as if Houston somehow got it right.
Yeah, I would think so with D'Amico Ryan, CJ Stroud and company. Also, Kansas City stopped Miami in their tracks 26-7. We'll talk Kansas City in a moment.
Thank God.
Real quick.
Thank you, Kansas City. Thank you, Kansas City.
One last time for the road. Fuck the Dolphins. But with Dallas, with Dallas and Detroit, can we just put it to bed? Ball don't lie.
Nope.
Dallas got the unfortunate break against Detroit. Detroit ends up playing the Rams, and Detroit ends up winning, and Dallas ends up getting their asses whooped.
Well, I don't
because it was not as close. It was not as close as the 48-32 score.
Yeah, no, absolutely, it wasn't as close as the 48-32 score you showed. But I mean, nobody picked the Packers at all, except for maybe Brandon from Listen In. He might. I mean, I would have probably picked the Packers too because I don't like the Cowboys. So
I just love being able to talk shit to Mr. Perez. Let me tell you what.
Even him though, the most cowboy of Cowboys fans was like, yeah, this is fucking garbage.
Yeah, but the self-deprecation has to be there. It's like being a Red Sox fan these days when you're like, so you're telling me the team that brings in a bajillion dollars says they can't afford $50 and you're like, yeah. Like, wow, that sucks. I'm like, yeah, they do. I'm very well aware because it's the only way that gets you through it. Speaking from the lens of a Bills fan, John, for almost 25 years now, I understand where he's coming from. Although I must say, it's got to be real ugly to be having that dream of like, oh man, the cute girl's going to finally kiss me. And then you wake up and it's just your dog's ass in your face. That's what it's like to be a Cowboys fan, I think.
Well, I mean, yeah, I would argue that's probably what it's like to be a Jets fan here, but we ain't going to talk about that.
No, it's a conspiracy if that were the case, my man.
Something like that. I don't know.
Moving over to the divisional playoffs, not a cute name. It's very serious now. The divisional playoffs.
Hang on. Let me see if I could do a little trick here. Ready? Hang on. Divisional playoffs. Did that work?
No.
There should have been like an echo. Was there no echo?
Maybe a little.
God damn it! All right.
Divisional.
Sorry. It was. I'm on the travel podcast microphone, not my normal one. Dag nabbit.
It's the Buffalo Bills versus the Kansas City Chiefs. John, you heard me right. John, you heard me right. The Buffalo Bills versus the Kansas City Chiefs. They're coming to Highmark Stadium, baby.
They're
coming to Highmark Stadium Sunday.
Very different vibe, man. Going to be a very Pat Mahomes' first. If I'm not mistaken, correct me if I'm wrong, Ryan, but isn't this his first like?
Did you look ahead in the notes?
Game? No, I didn't.
Don't look ahead in the notes, man. Okay. Sunday, January 21st at 6:30 p.m. on CBS. I promise you, I don't care if it's 50 degrees during the day. It's gonna be cold as ice at Highmark Stadium. Kansas City 12-6, coming off a 26-7 victory over Miami in Super Wild Card Weekend. It's Kansas City's first ever true road playoff game for Patrick Mahomes.
Oh, look at that!
Before
you did have that covered. Best in the business you are, Ryan.
Thank you. I got more. Not only because, again, people say, well, he played on the road at the Super Bowl. That's a neutral site. Shut your goddamn mouth. It doesn't count. It's, John, get this. It's January 16th, 2024. Kansas City has not played a playoff game on the road since 2015.
That's insane.
When they lost to the New England Patriots.
Especially nowadays, right? Nowadays. That's absurd. We got to give even though this is Bill's Talk podcast, you got to give Kansas City their flowers for that type of stuff. That's excellence on a different level.
I mean, that's exactly how the Patriots would always continually win in the playoffs because, again, so much easier to win at home because you've got your fans. You get to sleep in your bed. You get to drive your car to the stadium. You get to play in your locker, blah, 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 blah.
Which is exactly why this one's going to hit Kansas City and Patrick Mahomes way different.
Yes,
than any time Buffalo, but then that 13-second game, like this is the game of games right here. And
this is the game.
In each of the last
game,
two
John,
seasons.
If you're going to make up for all of those losses, because again, Kansas City has knocked Buffalo out of the playoffs twice. This would be the third time if they win, obviously. Thanks. I can count. You can count on meeting me in the parking lot after this podcast. The Kansas City Chiefs have always had Arrowhead behind them, and they're very difficult to beat at Arrowhead. So much so, per at Sharp End Pencil, PENSE on Twitter, quote, home field advantage has been huge for Kansas City's pass defense in 2023. On average, they give up an additional 10.8 expected points per 60 plays on the road versus when they're at Arrowhead. That's how big of a difference it has been for Kansas City this season. And if you're telling me, because we will also know on Sunday night, if the Bills are playing to host the AFC Championship game or if they're playing to go to Baltimore in a potential AFC Championship game, which will only amp things up more because, oh boy, everything seems to be going the Buffalo Bills way. Knock on wood so far.
Let me tell you something. The thought about Buffalo hosting the AFC Championship game against a Houston-based team again jogs up memories of one of the greatest playoff games you or I will ever have seen. I saw live, but man, oh man, like that's the classic football vintage junkie in me is kind of low key really hoping for that.
I'm just hoping for the Buffalo Bills to make the goddamn Super Bowl, man, because you know what? At this point, it feels like no matter what happens this weekend, it feels different this year. Like, I can't remember the last time the Buffalo Bills felt this close to the Super Bowl.
I've been saying this since, it started becoming a reality when everything clicked and the gap was shrinking between Miami and Buffalo, where it's like, yeah, okay, maybe they might not win the division, but no one wants to see them in the playoffs. If they get into the playoffs, that's going to be a tough team to beat. And everybody was saying that, and they have not stopped. Like 6 games in a row now, where it's like, and they're seemingly, at least on the offensive side of the ball. I know we talked about the defensive injuries earlier, but on the offensive side of the ball, they're getting healthier, and that's a real good thing. They're just playing at a different level, and to be perfectly honest with you, Baltimore is the only team in the AFC right now, quite frankly, in the entire NFL right now, that I think has the chance to beat Buffalo, and I don't know that they would. This team is playing very, very differently. They're playing, you know what? Here's the thing, because the last few years when they've been playing so well, we've almost kind of like expected it. And then when it doesn't happen, it's like, well, what the hell? Like, everything was in motion. Everything was in play. They were playing this strongly with here, and they did this, and they made this move, and they did this. They've been playing playoff games essentially for the last 6 weeks. So they've been in playoff mode for a very, very long time. And with repetition comes habit, and with habit becomes normalcy. Right now, at least as far as this team goes in this season, in this year, this playoff atmosphere that they've been playing on has to be feeling like it's normal to them. And I think that's where they have the advantage over everybody else, because most of the other teams have not been playing this level of playoff football for this long.
Not to even mention, it seems like everything Sean McDermott is calling is working. Everything Joe Brady is calling is working. Sean McDermott, again, give him his flowers. He coached his ass off last week.
He sure did.
With Cam Lewis playing a ton of time, with Kyer Elam playing a ton of time, AJ Klein playing a ton of time. I caught DeMar Hamlin out there playing safety at one point in time. Like, there are guys on the field on Sunday who have not played a ton of football. And it really felt to me like, hey, this is going to be the Jaguars version of the play, or the Jaguars regular season game, but in the playoffs, where the Bills are just not going to have enough firing power, manpower, whatever, explosiveness on the defensive side of the ball to stop the Steelers from scoring. Turns out Sean McDermott was able to coach him up. And again, credit where it's due. This man has continued to show us, was it Paul Simon had 50 ways to make a record? Sean McDermott's got 50 ways to save your job from an absolute firing, because the dude.
Yeah, you ain't kidding.
It's funny because now all the Swifties on the internet are picking up on the pit, where the Buffalo Bills have essentially been sacrificing fans to the new stadium pit. Ever since people started climbing in drunk on acid, shitting all over themselves, the Buffalo Bills haven't lost. Let's not get it twisted. Let's give credit where credit's due. 9/11 galvanized this football team.
It really did, though. It really did. They're 6-0.
And it's not even.
It's Allah Akbar. McDermott was born.
Not even. But here's the thing. It's not even that like Sean McDermott did anything regarding 9/11. It's something he did in the past. It's the long and short of it. He's not your idiot. He's our idiot, and you won't make fun of him. And
right.
He's our guy, and we're gonna rally behind him, and we're gonna be galvanized because of this. And that is exactly what has happened over at One Bills Drive. And it has been. John, it has been absolutely unbelievable.
Bills fans have made fun of it too, and justifiably so, because it's freaking hilarious.
But everybody in that stadium, in that locker room, in that facility have rallied around Sean McDermott. I mean, we got to make fun of stuff. We know that's our job. It's our job. Life sucks and then you die. So we got to have fun while we're here, right?
Sure.
And if your sports team, like when Aaron Rodgers is like, I injected baby blood into my penis and I don't got COVID no more, whatever, it's like, okay, great. Congratulations. You got to make fun of that stuff. Cause you know what?
Yeah.
It may never happen again. So if the Bills win the Super Bowl and it's because of 9/11, bro, I'm not going to say it.
You know
but
what?
Like, oh, okay, let's celebrate.
It's just one of those things where it's like, I mean, yeah, okay, but hear me out, kind of things. You know what I mean?
Whatever it takes. Look at whatever it takes.
Got to do what you got to do, man.
Just
Super
win,
Bowls
baby.
don't come,
Just win.
Super Bowls don't come very often for most of us. So if we get the opportunity to get one, I mean, by any as the old nation of domination in the 1990s would say, by any means necessary.
Yeah. Hey, look at the Buffalo Bills. It's their 20th home playoff game all time. They're 6th time facing Kansas City. Buffalo is 2-3 all time playing KC. 2-1 at home with wins in 91 and 93. They lost only to Kansas City once in 1966. That's when my dad was born. Matchup predictor: 56.6% of America believes Buffalo will defeat Kansas City, according to ESPN Analytics. One more person wants to give us their input, though. What does Boomer have to say about this?
No one circles the wagons like the Buffalo Bills.
No one is circling the wagons like the Buffalo Bills. The fans,
not for nothing.
John,
you know what? We're possibly 4 games away. 2 on the AFC East side, or 2 on the AFC side, and 2 on the NFC side from the Boomer Bowl. Do you know what the Boomer Bowl is?
The San Francisco 49ers
and
versus the Buffalo Bills.
You got it. It could be possible.
Nailed it. Every single year for as long as I can remember, that was always the prediction. Doesn't matter how good the 49ers and Bills are, always the 49ers and Bills for Chris Berman. But hey, look at
4 potential games away.
John, the Buffalo Bills are 2 wins away from representing the AFC in the Super Bowl in Las Vegas. Mm-hmm. And I mean, there are formidable opponents ahead of them, being potentially the Texans, potentially the Ravens, Kansas City on Sunday. Mm-hmm. I mean, right now, it's looking real good for the Buffalo Bills, and I don't see any other reason otherwise. Now, granted, we could full disclosure, we can come back on next week. It could be the last podcast of the season.
Well, hold on. Let me do what I do. Let me do what I've done the last couple of weeks. Hold on.
I set you up for that.
Hey, Buffalo. Hey, One Bills Drive. It's your boy, your favorite Jets fan, John Cimino, at I am JC Money here, letting you know that the continuation of this season of Trust the Podcast still rests on your shoulders. So you know what you're going to have to do in this game, right? Because if you don't carry the mission out, next week's our season finale, and you don't want that on your shoulders, do you? Up to you guys. You guys can make it happen as you have the last 2 weeks. I'm just saying. No pressure.
Hey, man, we've always said it. We've said it for 7-8 weeks now. Just win, baby. Just win. Doesn't matter how you do it.
Mm-hmm.
Walk out with a dub.
Yes, sir.
Keep it rolling. So, for John Cimino, I'm Ryan Wolfe. As always, we are Trust the Podcast.
You're not.
We will catch you same time, same place next week. Thank you again for tuning in. As always, just win, baby. Let's go, Buffalo. Go, Bills. We'll see you soon.
Ciao, y'all.
1, 2, 3, 4.
The preceding presentation has been brought to you by the Gear Network.